The word of the Lord.
Our first reading for this Sunday comes from the book of Ecclesiastes, or Kohelet. Now, we want to reflect on this fundamental question. What is your real work? And what is your real wealth? People always say, we work in order to generate wealth. But what is your real work? And depending on your real work, you will get your real wealth. In the first reading, we have this cry, which might sound a pessimistic cry to some people, where we are told, vanity of vanities. All is vain. Meaning, all is empty. All is pointless. Maybe people will say, oh, who is this Koheleth saying that all of our efforts lead to emptiness, to nothingness? Is that supposed to be part of God's word to us? Is that supposed to be good news? Well, we should say that the author is not a bearer of bad news. The author is just pushing us to a serious examination of ourselves and of human activity. One such activity that the author wants us to re-examine is work. Work that generates wealth or income. For what are you working? And what is the wealth that you are accumulating? According to the first reading, you work, and because of your wisdom, your perseverance, you earn something. But then, when your life on earth is ended, your wealth, the fruit of your labor, will pass on to someone else who did not work to gain it. And so the author is saying, isn't that pointless? You work, and when your life on earth ends, you are not the one who enjoys what you have gained. That wealth passes on to someone and receives whatever you leave behind without lifting a finger. Do you consider that meaningful work? Do you consider that meaningful wealth? Wealth that you don't enjoy because it is passed on to somebody else when you die? Is that the point of your life? Is that the meaning of your work? Is that true wealth? Then the author adds something. You work, and let's say you have become really successful in your work. Success measured according to what you have gained or accumulated. But there is a price that you pay. There is some cost in that. According to the first reading, okay, you work hard, but then it brings you anxiety. You cannot even sleep at night, worrying about what you will do next, or worrying about the security of the property, the riches that you have accumulated. I remember people whose houses have no appliances, so they can sleep with their doors open. But you have accumulated a lot, and so you don't leave your room open. You secure your doors, you secure your windows, you set some alarm system if you're extremely rich. Now you have cameras left and right. Is that the point of working? You have no peace of mind? Is that real life? Have you really found your real wealth? Is that wealth? Have you become more peaceful, freer, or have you become more of a slave of things that you have accumulated? So the first reading is asking us, is that how to live? Is that the point of your work? Is it worth accumulating all of these things? This is not pessimism. It is realism. We all need to hear these questions and to provide our answers.
Word of the Lord.
Our second reading this Sunday comes from the letter of Paul to the Colossians. We have been reflecting on what our true work is and what our true wealth is. Work that is supposed to generate wealth. So what is your work? And what wealth is generated by your work? In the first reading, we find from Ecclesiastes this sigh, which becomes a point of our reflection and self-examination. Vanity of vanities. Working, which leads to accumulation of wealth, which is pointless because you don't bring it with you after death. And it even brings you a lot of anxiety while you are here on earth and while you are preserving and protecting the fruits of your labor. Vanity. So what should be our work? What should we work for? In the second reading, Paul tells us to set our hearts on heavenly things, on things of God. That should be the wealth that we should be working for. So if that is our wealth, things that pertain to God, things in the heavenly realm, and we should work for it. How do we go about working for that? I guess when it comes to more material wealth, wealth of this earth, we somehow know what type of work we should engage in. I remember the time when people said, oh, there is a demand for physical therapists all over the world. Oh, so many Filipinos enrolled in physical therapy because that is the type of work that will give you a good salary and a good future. But St. Paul is saying, while that is not bad, are you aspiring for heavenly things, things that pertain to God? Now, St. Paul reverses it first. What are the false wealths or riches that we should shun, we should not work for? Here is a good enumeration. We should put to death, we should not work for the following things: fornication, impurity, passion, evil desires, and the lust, which is idolatry. Now we know that many people work for that. And many people earn a lot of money in promoting these things to the destruction of lives, of youth, most especially, and families. Is that true wealth? St. Paul is saying you should not work for these things. Not. What is he pointing to when he talks about working for things of God and accumulating as our wealth heavenly things? Is St. Paul advocating some sort of a escape from the world? Will we stop our human activity here on earth? Should we stop pursuing a profession? No, that's not the point of St. Paul. What he's saying is, while you are pursuing these earthly jobs or work, are you pursuing the one that really matters? Are you working on becoming more and more Christ-like? Are you becoming more and more the image of Christ? That is hard work. And are we working on that? Of course, with God's grace. And to be like Christ is to be a person of love. Loving God. Making myself available to God. And loving neighbor. Working towards the unity that the human family needs. Working towards equality, human respect. avoiding all forms of discrimination and barriers. Are we working in these areas? These are the things that matter to God. These are the things that make human life really profitable. So as we work here on earth, are our aspirations the same as God's aspirations? A new heaven, a new earth, founded on love. This is an important question that everyone should face.
The Gospel of the Lord.
Our Gospel passage for this Sunday comes from St. Luke. We have been reflecting on this fundamental question: what is your real work? And what riches are you able to generate from your work? Through the book of Ecclesiastes in the first reading, and through the insights of St. Paul in the second reading in his letter to the Colossians, we have been guided to ask this fundamental question: what type of work am I really focusing in? And am I enjoying the fruits of my real work? Work is about generating wealth. But what is your wealth? And that depends on what your work is. Now, in the Gospel, we find Jesus being asked by someone to be an arbiter. This person says, "Teacher, tell my brother to give me my share of our inheritance." Inheritance, again, worldly wealth. And we know that brothers and sisters often fight each other over inheritance, over jewelry, over land, over houses. Imagine, the family is broken, is divided because of wealth. And this person approaches Jesus to be the arbiter, the mediator. But Jesus says, "Friend, who has set me up as your judge or arbiter?" And instead of playing that role of meddling into the division of property, the division of an inheritance, Jesus says, in a surprising way, avoid greed in all its forms. Instead of helping this person find his rightful share in the inheritance they will receive, he challenges the person. Why are you so interested in what you will get? Avoid greed in all its forms. And he tells this person, one's possessions do not guarantee us life. Your possessions here on earth do not guarantee you life. Life in two senses. First, a prolongation of your biological life. Oh, we know, even people who are wealthy, who have money to spare, when you reach a certain point, what we call the end of life, even your wealth cannot buy such an extension of life. Maybe a few, days or weeks extension of biological life due to the medicines or the procedures that you are able to pay. But even the best doctors, the best medicines cannot guarantee you life. At death, rich or poor are equal. We will all be naked before God. So Jesus is saying, okay, you are worried about your share of the inheritance, but you think it will extend your life? No, it will not. But there is also another sense. Your inheritance does not guarantee a meaningful life, a life that will make you truly happy, fulfilled, and fruitful. And to drive this point, especially the second point, to the person, Jesus gives a parable about a rich man who apparently has become rich because of industry, because of diligence in work. And so his earthly work has led him to, an accumulation of possessions and riches. But look at the concern of this person. He had accumulated so much, his harvest bins have now been rendered small compared to what he wanted to keep. And his solution was this: oh, I have so much harvest. Look, I will construct larger harvest bins to store what I have accumulated. Okay, some people will say, well, that's a logical solution to a problem. And I see this happening in many of our homes. You used to have only one pair of shoes. Now you have 5. And instead of giving away the 2 or 3 that you're not using, what do? You buy a new shoe rack in order to have a place for your shoes. No, some people, you have accumulated a lot of clothing, and instead of giving away some of those that you're not using anymore, what do? You buy a new cabinet to store your old clothes. Now, so this story happens every day, every day. Some of you probably will buy a new house, and because your new house has a garage for 2 cars, and you have only 1 car, you'll say, oh, poor space, unused, let us buy another car. Okay? Now, so this form of thinking happens even in our time. And Jesus says, okay, this is one way of thinking. One way of thinking how to deal with my accumulated wealth. And this guarantees for the person in the parable life. It says, now I can rest and my life is secure. Maybe I won't have to work that hard. I have enough to sustain me for the rest of my years. So what will I do? I will just eat, drink, and be merry. I can relax. My life is now guaranteed by the wealth that I have accumulated. But then in the parable, God says, oh, you fool, tonight you will die. Of course, this rich man does not know that that evening he will die. Only God knows. And we are reminded of the first reading from Ecclesiastes. Vanity of vanities. You work hard, you accumulate, and you think your life is now secure. Your life may end any day, any night, any time. And what happens to your accumulated wealth? Pointless, useless. You will not be able to bring anything, even a cent, a centavo, to the next life. And this becomes an occasion for Jesus to say, you should grow rich in the sight of God and not grow rich for oneself. This is the same message of the second reading from St. Paul. Are we becoming rich in the sight of God? Are we accumulating wealth? That is wealth in the heavenly realm. Love of God, love of neighbor. This makes life really meaningful. Without love of God and neighbor, you may be the poorest person on earth. You may have all the amenities around you, but in your mind and heart, you are not rich. There is an emptiness. There is a poverty that some materially poor people may not experience because they are filled with love. This lesson is not new. We have heard this a number of times, but it is worth hearing again. For people who are working hard, I salute you. But please do not forget that there is your work and there is real work. There is wealth and there is real wealth. And real work and real wealth is all about love. All that matters. Are you working in that direction? And are you gaining the fruits of the labor of love? I was in a meeting of business executives. So all people who are driven to succeed and even driven to withstand competition. I gave a short message on servant leadership and all of these things. And at the end of my short talk, one person raised his hand and asked a question. And I'm very happy that the question that he asked was not the same question that the man here in the gospel asked Jesus. No, for me to mediate in the division of inheritance. No, this person said, I work hard. And I can safely say that through my hard work, I am able to contribute to the success of this company. And our company has been doing well, one of the best companies in the country. Then he asked this question, Bishop, when do I know when enough is enough? Even my Sundays are spent working. I don't have time anymore for my wife and my children. But I have to keep the company going. But I know I'm losing. I'm losing in the most important work that I should be doing. When do I know when enough is enough? I was tempted to say, you are not far from the kingdom of God. I just said, that's an important question that all of us should be asking. And I'm inviting you to consider the same question. The word has been exposed. Let us now fulfill it.